Welcome to the Coils, Cash and Culture Show, where we sit down with creatives and entrepreneurs at the intersection of Black hair care and business. My name is Taisha Friday, and I'll be your host. After researching the Black hair care economy, I learned in some countries, Black consumers can spend up to 9 times more than their non-Black counterparts on hair care. Despite this unwavering demand, there is still room for innovation in the quality of goods and services available. Through Coils, Cash and Culture, we're going to get a bit closer to the creatives and the entrepreneurs creating new paths in the industry. Black hair is business, so let's get into it. Today, I'm delighted to have James Catalano with us. He is a professional hairstylist to high-end clients, and he's going to talk to us a bit about his journey in getting into professional hairstyling, what he's learned along the way, and the advice he has for others looking for a similar career. Full disclosure at the top of this, I have been a client of James when I was based in the UK. I was probably the least interesting client James had. So it's a pleasure to kind of start this off with someone that I know that's taking care of my hair. So thanks for joining us, James.
You're welcome.
Before we jump into the questions and the interview itself, I'd love to just give everyone who's listening an overview of what you've been up to so they have the context of what you've achieved so far. James has over a decade of experience styling all types of hair, including black hair. Notable names include Halle Bailey. Some of you will know her from recent things coming out. He's worked on sets of some of our favorite campaigns for Nike, American Express, Captain Morgan, to name a few, or he's been at the movie premieres of some of our most loved films like Black Panther. Whether it's London Fashion Week, a music video, a broadcast television interview, James has people covered. So that's my overview of your work, James. Do you want to give us your own version of just who you are, where you're from, and kind of the work you do?
Yeah, sure. I was born and raised in North London. I guess I'd be what you call a session hairstylist, which is someone that mainly works outside of a salon and generally works on things like photo shoots and red carpets. I have worked in salons before, but I don't know, I've kind of always wanted to do something a bit more kind of varied. I'm kind of one of those people that I guess get bored easily, and if I go to the same place every single day, that doesn't work for me. It can work for some people like that kind of stability. I guess I don't. So I like to be working with different people all the time in different places, different projects. And that's kind of what stimulates me. I started out working in salons, but once I figured out that there was a kind of whole industry outside of that, that's kind of where things led me.
Cool. Okay. So you said you're from North London.
Yeah.
For anyone who might not know where North London is, North London is home to some of the most creative and biggest and innovative names in some of the entertainment industry. So you've got Adele, Skepta, Headie One, Letitia Wright is from North London. How do you think being from London, North London kind of shaped and kind of helped you in terms of the start of your career as a city it is?
In terms of my career, I think the main thing was my basic where I grew up was, I guess, what you would call a low economic area. There was 6 of us in the house when I was growing up. We didn't have a lot of money. We had to kind of do things on a budget. I would rarely get what I asked for Christmas, stuff like that. And when you get used to those things, you don't expect, too much in terms of, I guess, like material things. And I was kind of just taught the value of, being polite, being a good person, keeping your word. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. Just those kind of values which kind of prepare you for just being a good person in life. And I feel like my parents did a really good job in instilling those values. And so in terms of the area I come from, I think what I've taken with that into my career is kind of just a sense of just being, I guess, humble. And, I didn't have much when I was growing up, but what I did have was like a solid kind of like family foundation. And so that kind of just allowed me to, just be polite and, be considerate of people's needs and feelings and stuff like that. So yeah, but I mean, apart from that, I couldn't wait to leave there. So the motivation,
Shout out to North London.
yeah, it was, I guess the motivation helped me to kind of, because when you kind of live somewhere and you don't resonate with that place, and there's things about it where you kind of just feel like you don't really belong there in some ways. You kind of just want to, I guess, escape in some way. And I've always enjoyed traveling, and I've always kind of just wanted to be free. And so when I had the opportunity to, um, you know, work in a whole bunch of different places, around London, around the country, around the world, that's kind of something that was pushed by the fact that, I was in a place where I kind of almost felt like I needed to break free from. And I think a lot of people from similar backgrounds have kind of similar types of a story where, they want to make it in life, and they want to, break free from.
100%, 100%. The things you mentioned there, like being humble, being punctual, being polite, they're really, it seems like obvious basic things, but when you're actually an entrepreneur and in yourself, you're dealing with clients from all parts of the world, you're dealing with clients in all different types of positions in what they do. Those kind of traits have actually probably been pretty critical for kind of you building your base and your reputation in the industry. We're gonna stick with you being younger. You're obviously you're still young, but we're gonna go a bit younger. And I feel like you always say you fell into hair when I speak to you about this when we catch up. But you actually went to university. Me and James actually went to the same university. Didn't know each other at the time. What were you doing at uni? Like, how did you get from uni to hair? Why did you go to uni, basically? What happened at uni? And then how did you leave doing hair?
Okay. So, I mean, me going to uni was, for the most part, to, get away from the area that I lived in. And just to be an adult and to be free. I've always, from when I was like, a child, I've always kind of wanted to, live an adult kind of life. I wanted to, do stuff like going shopping, and, I used to play, games where I was the teacher, or I was the mother or the father. I always kind of placed myself in adult roles from when I was a child. And I always wanted to kind of just have that freedom, like that kind of sense of being able to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, living independently. I've always been very independent. So when I had the opportunity to go to uni, I thought it'd be a good thing to do once you finish school. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do as a career yet. And
what did you study?
I studied film and television, because that was something I really enjoyed in school. I did film and television I did film studies for GCSE and A level. So that was something I kind of really enjoyed.
And did you start doing hair at university for folks? Like when did you start like getting into it?
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of always had an interest in it, to be honest. Like I remember I used to play with my sister's dolls and stuff like that. And I used to like their hair and stuff like that. Like I'd plait anything that you could be able to plait. I just enjoyed doing it, to be honest. And then when I was in uni, I used to get like cornrows done, and there was a girl on campus who used to do it, and she used to do it really well. And I asked her one day, I was like, why don't you, you can make some money from your dorm room, because that was a thing at the time as well. When I went to uni, like guys still had their hair in cornrows. It's not so much of a thing. Well, no, it's kind of come back really, but most guys had it with the short back and sides. This was where you'd have it going all the way to the nape of your neck. Yeah, exactly. We're thinking, what's his face from B2K, Omarion.
Yeah, those days. Okay.
Vibe, yeah. And nowadays the styles were a little bit different, but those days, yeah, the guys had cornrows. Or cane rows if you're in the UK or the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So I kind of proposed that to her, and she kind of was like, oh no, I want to concentrate on my studies and stuff. And so I guess at that point I kind of saw like a gap in the market. Like I've never really considered myself an entrepreneurial thinker, but at that time I thought to myself like, if there's no one on campus that could do hair, if she's not willing to do it, it would be cool to, be able to do that. And so I kind of had a basic kind of, I had the basic kind of skill of being able to, plait and I guess cane rows, or it didn't look that great. So I basically got like a dummy head from eBay, and I started practicing on it. practicing my parting and my my grip and all that kind of stuff, doing different designs and stuff. And this was back in the day when everybody, where it wasn't kind of like, all gelled and, there was no stitch braids or anything like that. It was more about like kind of just using a little bit of product to give the hair some slip and a bit of hold, and then you can do designs and stuff like that. It was a lot easier actually. So anyway, yeah, so I kind of did that for a while. I kind of practiced when I had time. And then when I was ready, I started asking people if they'd want me to do their hair for them. I did it for free. Then I'd do it at a discount rate. Then
you did it for free?
I did it for free.
To start with?
Yeah.
That everyone who's listening, that's how you build your client base. Do some free heads pretty well, and they'll come back and they'll pay for it. That's a tip there for everyone.
I guess so. Do you know what? You could get to a point where you're ready to charge straight away. I think for me, I was kind of just like, I don't know. I kind of just used it as an opportunity, because the thing is, if I don't charge someone, then I can kind of have a play around. I can do whatever I want. If it goes wrong, then no kind of financial bond. So I didn't do it free for very long. I did it free a few times, and then I would do it for like quite a discounted rate. And then like I used to take photos every time I did something. And then I got like business cards together, and at one point I was like putting them around campus. And then one of the people's hair that I did, he went for like the ACS president or something. It's African and Caribbean Society in university / college. So I guess they'd have an equivalent of that in America. It would be the African American Society or something.
But he would have had a big audience who would have known that he's got his hair done.
Yeah, so he gave me a little shout out and stuff. So there was a few things where, around campus, I ended up getting a few clients, but then also I would go out, I would go out clubbing. And around that time, I happened to meet a lot of, and be friends with a lot of dancers. And so there were a few people who had grown out their hair. They wanted it done, like friends of mine. So I'd do their hair. And then obviously where they're kind of mixing with other dancers and people within the entertainment industry, they kind of, recommended me, and I'd do their hair, or I'd do their mum's hair, or whatever, just whoever's, to be honest, whatever I had time for. Yeah.
Okay. And when did it stick? So you went to uni, you'd done a few people's hair, played around, started to build a client base that's kind of focused around campus. You leave uni. What happened? When did you decide, like, okay, I'm pretty good at this?
Yeah. So when it transitioned into being an actual, career was when I finished uni. I mean, I hadn't, with film and television, they didn't teach you much of the practical side of things. It was more theory based. It was more how to analyze the shots that they used in terms of like what that's meant to make you feel. And it was more about the historical and socio-political context of when the film was made, and about how the directors use they use the same actors for all of their films to whatever. So by the time I'd finished uni, I wasn't confident with actually doing the practical side of, filmmaking, because what I decided in uni was that I wanted to be a music video director, because that kind of gave me, I tried to create a career out of what I'd studied, essentially, because I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. But what I definitely wanted to do with regards to my career was I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to work on shorter term projects rather than like longer term film projects. I wanted to be able to meet lots of people. And I wanted to, I guess, do something which involved, music, because I like music. And subsequently, years down the line, even though I didn't end up getting into music video direction, all of those criteria which I had for a career have come into fruition through me doing hairstyling. So it's quite funny how those things work out.
Full circle.
Exactly.
Complete full circle.
But I didn't do much. When you study film and TV, if you want to get into that industry, you have to do more than just turn up at class, which is what I did, class and smoke weed. And so you have to kind of do some running or some interning or whatever it is, your uni course, so that when you finish, you have contacts or you have like work experience behind you. I had none of that. And I also didn't hand in my dissertation when it was due, so I had to go over the summer. So by the time I was finished, everybody had already graduated. Everybody had already gone for their, internships or work experience. And in my head, I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to be able to get anything paid right now. I wanted to still live in the accommodation I was in while I was at uni. And so I just went to the job centre and looked for a job which would pay me enough for my rent. And in doing so, I found a hairdresser's apprenticeship. And I thought, well, I've been doing hair like kind of as a side hustle during uni. So let me do this apprenticeship. And so I worked in a salon and went to college part-time. And it was while I was doing my apprenticeship, I learned about Instagram. This was kind of when Instagram was first starting to become popular. One college told me about it. So I was putting my work on there, but I was also following hairstylists I'd seen in like magazines like Black Beauty, Black Hair. And one of the hairstylists I was following needed an assistant at that time. So I went in and did a trade test with her, which is basically where you bring in a model and do a hairstyle so they can kind of see how you work, how quickly you work and such. And then yeah, she brought me on jobs that she was doing, like kind of commercial jobs and I don't know, photo shoots and stuff like that. The lady's name's Dion Smith. And yeah, I was her assistant for.
Shout out Dion Smith.
Shout out to Dion Smith, absolutely.
You've always got to pay homage to the people that help you along the way. I think people. I mean, I can look on your Instagram and the stuff you're doing. I think people can often think about, oh wow, this guy's doing hair for these people and he's flying everywhere. But it takes a lot of people to help you get there and teach you along the way in the trade.
Yeah.
And so you started going to shoots with her.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like for anyone who hasn't worked on a shoot and isn't styling on a shoot, like how is that different to a salon? Like in terms of the detail and the day to day and the prep?
Yeah. So I ended up working with her in her salon as well. Because the first salon I was in, I really wasn't happy there. It was a bit crazy. And I ended up working with her in her salon, and then that allowed me to be free for when she actually had shoots and stuff. So I kind of had both of those, and I guess with the same person. And the thing about shoots is I guess for one thing, you can be a lot more creative with stuff like, the Dion Smith does a lot of updos, and she does a lot of structural stuff. She's basically, she works on all types of hair as well. So it was really lovely to work with her because we'd work on all kinds of different projects when I assisted her. But one of her like specialities is like natural hair updos, and she creates these really cool, elaborate shapes and stuff with natural hair. And so people that come into the salon to get their hair, I don't know, washed and blow dried, and maybe they'll have a little curl in the end. You get to be a lot more creative with shape and using hair as like a fabric essentially when you're working on magazine editorials and stuff like that. And also it's the time considerations. When you're in the salon, you want your appointment to take a certain amount of time because time's money at the end of the day. So you want to do a good job, but you want to make sure you get it done within the slot because there's going to be someone coming in afterwards. On a photo shoot, you kind of never really know the timings until you get there. They could add an extra model. They could reduce the time it takes to get ready. So you really have to be willing to work quickly. It's a lot about timing and efficiency and stuff like that. And then also you have to be available to do checks when the person's in front of the camera, because whatever you do to them in the seat in front of a mirror, if you're lucky enough to get a mirror, sometimes you're not. You now have to look through on a monitor to see how it actually translates when the camera is shooting the hairstyle. And so you need to be able to jump in and fix anything without interrupting, the photographer and the models kind of, their communication. And, so it's very fast paced. But it is very fun. And I think it's nice to, because obviously you can, when you've done someone's hair in the salon, you can take pictures afterwards and, look at your work and show other people your work. But when something's been photographed by a professional and there's, set design and there's lighting and there's wardrobe styling and there's like makeup, it kind of brings everything together in such a powerful way. And so, yeah, when you see the final images, they're generally a lot more kind of, you're a lot more connected to what you've done. And it's a lot nicer to see professional images of your work.
You've talked a lot about all the different things that go into a set. I know this for anyone listening. James has done my hair plenty of times, so I have seen the amount of kit and just everything that you could imagine you could use to do someone's hair.
Yeah.
James has it. And you're always on the go. Can you share a bit more about the preparation and the work that goes in towards the shoot that you'll be heading to? Because I think there's a perception, and I think I even had it, where you see a hairstylist, you see the work coming out and you're like, oh, they go to a shoot, they do their hair, and it's kind of glamorous, to be fair, the output. And maybe there's a party after this kind of event. But you're essentially running your own business. And I would love to hear more about all the things that you have to manage around the actual shoot itself.
Okay, yeah. So from the very first kind of point of contact, you're going to communicate with a photographer or a stylist or a producer, and they're going to ask your availability. You're going to negotiate a rate if there is one. You're going to basically ask them all of the information you need in order to figure out if it's going to work for you and if it's something worthwhile doing for you. And then also to negotiate a rate which you think is fair. So there's that initially. And then if there's something which is, if they want a particular type of look, they'll send you a mood board with some ideas on it. It's also good to get shots of the models if you can, so you can know how you're going to translate, what they have, how their hair is, in terms of how you can translate that into the look that they need. Or sometimes it might not even work at all, or sometimes you might need to do some prep in advance to make it work. So it's kind of figuring out the logistics of things ahead of the shoot. Do any prep that you might need to do to save some time on the day, because like I said, it's very time specific, and so sometimes if you need to do something that's quite elaborate, you might want to pre-make a piece at home which you can attach when you get to the shoot on the day. And on the day, you'll pack everything you need to create that hairstyle, but then you also need to take extra things because sometimes things change on the day. So you could go there and, they've asked for, a natural hairstyle, but then on the day they want something more slick. And so you need to be prepared to smooth out the hair or add product or whatever you need to do to get it to that. So you always need to carry extra kit. And then there are also some shoots you work on or some clients you work with. If you're getting someone ready for, I don't know, like a fashion show or a dinner or some type of event, you might not have any contact with the person, or you might not get any idea of what they want. So you have to bring what's called a full kit.
How big is a full kit? So we can imagine it. How much kit is this that you're dragging down the street? In the pouring rain in London.
Yeah, it varies. I guess I don't know, it really varies. Everybody's full kit is different. Like a lot of the big fashion hairstylists will bring like maybe 3 like very large suitcases full of stuff. They'll have one suitcase full of like hot tools, like curling tongs and stuff like that. They'll have a suitcase just full of wigs. A suitcase full of I don't know, padding and foam and wire and stuff like that. Excuse me. It depends on you do end up carrying quite a lot of stuff because like tins of hairspray and different products, they can get quite heavy, and then obviously the heated styling tools get heavy as well. So yeah, you can be carrying quite a lot at times, and sometimes it's not even a thing where you can carry it in the rain. You'd have to have a part for you or something. Yeah.
And you talked about the negotiation part, which I think is really interesting, because I'm sure you love doing hair, making people feel good and, look the best they can and being creative. How did you find like having to start negotiate like your rate, your worth? And
yeah, it's not something you're taught either, to be honest. It's definitely not something you're taught in college, because you're learning about working in a salon. And so you're learning about, kind of specific, like set prices for set, services. But in the session world, it varies so much. You could do the same hairstyle on the same person, but it's 2 different, events or 2 different, projects or functions, and the price could fluctuate like massively.
Any tips for anyone like who is like thinking about doing what you're doing, and kind of anything you've learned along the way when you've been negotiating and you're like, oh, now I know that. I wish I'd known that 2 years ago.
Yeah. So initially when you start out, like, because you're not going to be as experienced, you're going to just be thankful for the opportunity and you're not going to ask for money. And so, yeah, you could end up being, like really underpaid depending on what you, ask for. One of the biggest tips I would ask for anyone who isn't agency signed is to ask your colleagues, ask them what they would potentially charge for something like that. Like, there's always going to be someone who's had experience working with a particular, client or brand or, on a certain type of event. And generally the prices for certain things will be quite consistent. So for like a huge fashion campaign, you'll get like loads and loads of money. For a magazine editorial, you not get so much money because of the amount of money that's being put into these things. And it also depends on the usage, which is what the images are going to be, used for. So if the images are going to be used to make money, then you need to ask for more money. If the images are going to go
ownership. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you do, I don't know, like a huge, like fashion campaign and the pictures are going to go all over the world and those are going to be used to sell a product, then you need to charge accordingly. But yeah, the best thing to do, I mean, it's really difficult to get your head around. So the best thing to do is ask other people who have done similar type of jobs or who are more experienced. And for me, because I'm with an agency right now, I don't really have to worry about that as much because, you know, they will ask all of the questions. Sometimes it's difficult to ask these questions when you're negotiating on a job yourself, because it's kind of like you don't want to seem difficult. You don't want to seem like, you know, you're being fussy or anything like that. But it is good to ask these questions. You know, what are these images being used for? How many people do I have to do? How long is the day going to be? Where do I have to travel to? All of these can contribute to how much you're going to be getting paid, essentially.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's money is an interesting thing. Like, again, for anyone listening, you know, this podcast is called Coils, Cash and Culture for a reason, because Coils is cash is culture. And I think we have to remember, I saw this on a show. I was watching, it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Harlem. It follows 4 Black women. And there's a quote that they said in the first season. It's called "Life Takes Cash." And so I think that's something for anyone who's listening to take away, is like, don't shy away from the fact that you do need to get paid. And I love the fact that you've made the point of like, just ask people. I think if we all, no matter what industry you work in, if we were all a bit more together and open and transparent about kind of what the value is of our work, then probably you'd see more people get the economic return that they should from their craft. So I think that's really good advice for anyone looking to negotiate. You touched on the fact you now don't have that challenge so much as being part of an agency.
Yeah.
Well, I remember us back in, it must have been 2021, I was getting my head, or maybe towards the end of 2021, and I said I wanted to move to New York, and you were saying that, hey, you think the running of your business outside of the hair, you probably need the support from an agency to kind of take some of that admin away from you.
Yeah.
And now we're in 2023. I'm in New York. You're signed to an agency. What's it been like? How's it going? I'm so happy to kind of have watched the journey as I've got my hair done. So I'd love to just hear a bit more about how it's been and how it's helped, and what you're learning now that you're part of an agency.
Yeah. It's been great. And I think the experience you'll have with an agency is a lot to do with, I mean, the agency itself kind of has like a way of doing things, but your specific agent as well is going to make a huge difference. So if you're considering joining an agency, like, the agent himself needs to be a good fit for you. And I've been really fortunate that mine's like been amazing, essentially. But it's like you said, you want to like, as a creative, you want to show up on the day, you want to do what you need to do. You don't want to be stifled by a lot of other considerations. And so having someone manage your bookings, which is what an agency does. An agency is basically employed by you because they do the work for you. So, so having somebody who's going to get you as much work as possible, get you work with the right kind of clients and the kind of stuff you want to do, arrange all the logistical stuff, especially with like traveling and what have you. Having someone else sort all of that out is amazing. But just they're just kind of having that knowledge of the industry, which and having managed other artists, they're gonna be able to help you figure out where you want to go and which direction you want to take your career in, which is really great as well. So yeah, there's so many amazing things about being with an agency. That doesn't mean you have to be with an agency. Like I was with an agency for a very, very long time, and I managed to do some really amazing things. But for me at this point, it's really beneficial for me. It gives me some of my personal time back, and it also just allows me, like I said, to show up on the day and do what I need to do, and everything else has been kind of taken care of. And then once the job's finished, invoicing's taken care of, because invoicing sometimes can be a little bit complicated. And I would say the same thing for invoicing as negotiating rates. If you're not sure, ask someone.
And I guess the agency covers all that now and deals with all of that kind of stuff. And do you, is it a fixed rate? How does it work with agencies? Just generally, is it standard to pay a fixed rate for their services, or do they take a cut of different jobs? Or does it just vary depending on individual contracts?
It's roughly it's a percentage of what you get for the job, yeah, and it slightly differs from agency to agency. Like commercial agencies take a slightly lower commission because commercial agencies usually so basically TV commercials are usually they usually have an APA rate. An APA is what are they called?
We love an acronym.
APA is a union for people who work in film and for people who work in television and advertising. When you see a TV commercial, most likely everybody on that job was paid APA, which is basically a fixed day rate for the specific job that you have and the level of the job. So say, for instance, for me, there's hair designer rate, which is a little bit more than the hairdresser rate. So the hair designer will be the person who is the main hairstylist on the job. And then the hairdresser will be the person who assists them. They will get paid slightly different rates. But then APA also has overtime rates. It has rates for if you miss your lunch, if you don't have enough time between the wrap time and then the start time the next day. There's all of these different rules and regulations for APA rates, which basically protects the people that work within the advertising and TV industry. And so commercial agencies, which are agencies which mostly work within kind of advertising, and they will do like TV commercials and stuff like that, they take a slightly lower commission because the rate is fixed and it's a little bit lower than what you can earn from doing, I don't know, fashion work or celebrity work. So yeah, it varies slightly from agency to agency, but yeah, that's the general idea of how everyone's getting paid is that they'll get you a rate and then they'll take a percentage from that.
Okay. And do you want to share which agency you're with? Do you consider it a good agency in case anyone is looking for an agency? Do you want to give them a shout out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like they're fantastic. I think when I was always kind of in two minds about being with an agency, but I did have one in mind which I wanted to be with if I could. There was one that resonated the most with me, which was the Wall Group, and yeah, and I'm with Wall Group.
And why did they resonate with you? Just for when you were looking at agencies, what is it about them that you were like, yep, that ticks all the boxes for me?
Yeah, just the kind of work they do and the kind of artists they have. Like, it just seems that they're really kind of up there with they're always producing really amazing work. And I've followed a few of their artists from before, and yeah, I liked their work. I liked the people, and also with the main stuff that the Wall Group gets in is celebrity stuff, and it's although that's kind of seen as like something that's very prestige and stuff like that, like it's not too different from just hairstyling for other things.
Well, they're people, right? It's still people, and it's
you respect what they've done in terms of their achievements, and because a lot of times they do stuff outside of their, and they say if they're like a movie star, they'll do stuff outside of that, like philanthropy.
Philanthropic. We all know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really great experience to meet these people for sure.
And you talked about, I know we've caught up in the past about kind of how it's been and the types of clients and stuff. You can do black hair. If we're completely frank, there's a lot of people that can do hair but can't do black hair. How's it been trying to secure different jobs in terms of hair types for you as a hairstylist?
I guess I have a excuse me. I have like a black hair background because that's what I started doing when I started doing hair. It was like braids and stuff like that. I ended up getting into doing weave.
We appreciate you. We love you.
Yeah, I don't do both anymore. It takes too long. Sometimes if you want to ask for braids, then of course.
Of course.
They can be down to the floor. They can be skinny as you like. I'll spend the next 17 days with you. Like, yeah, when I went to when I did my apprenticeship, when I went to college to do hairdressing, it was basically hairdressing is European hair. I guess European and Asian hair. You don't learn much about Afro hair, natural hair, or like very curly hair in hairdressing. I don't know if it's the same now. I did it quite a while ago.
Yeah, I think in the UK they changed the rules. So I think maybe it was 2 years ago, whichever the body, you'll probably know the name, but the name of the body that is in charge of teaching hairdressing in the UK. I think it was in the pandemic. They decided that actually they were going to add to the curriculum textured hair off the back of everything that was happening at the time in terms of George Floyd's murder. And so I'm not sure if it was a response to that or if the work was already underway in the timing.
They've been considering it for a while. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I've not been 100% sure if and when it had been implemented because I've actually spoken to hairdressing students since then, and they've kind of said that it's basically the same layout as when I had it.
That is a shame if that's the case, just because truly, and again, this is for anyone, folks in the UK will get this, but like if you're not really from London or maybe Manchester or Birmingham, a major city, it's hard to find someone to do your hair and get the same service that people who don't have textured hair have and the same experience. And so I hope they are doing the work. I'll do some digging myself. But yeah, please continue about your portfolio and building that out to appeal to broad clients.
Okay, yeah. So I guess, yeah, you just have to, make sure that you're constantly like aware of and learning about, different techniques and different styles which are currently in fashion, which is, going to be different for different types of hair generally, although there's some kind of like merging these days between the two. Basically just going to say, just keep your portfolio varied if that's what you want to do. But it's also okay to not have a very varied portfolio. I know some people that just they only want to work with natural hair, or they only want to do braid styles, or, what I mean? So it's okay to not have that kind of variety. So it just depends what you want to do, really, the direction you want to go in. Yeah.
Do what you love, enjoy what you do. And so looking ahead to the future, what is next for you? What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to when it comes to what you do and your plans?
I am excited to do a lot more travel. It'll be great to do like some major awards. It'll be great to do something like the Oscars or Met Gala or something like that. Especially the Met Gala, I think you can be super duper like.
We're manifesting. I'm manifesting for you. It's going to
happen. So yeah, just continuously just being able to work with different people and, broadening my clientele. And I think outside of that, it would be really cool to develop some type of product or tool for hairstyling. I guess from the years of experience that I've had, and something which I guess is missing from the market. Maybe that'll be my next kind of entrepreneurial move. And also because hairstyling is such a kind of a labor intensive job, it is nice to give yourself a break from the actual physical side of things. And if I have something like a business going on in the background, Yeah, that'd be great. So I guess that's the next thing for me. That's something which I'm considering for the future, is bringing out some type of product, or I don't know, course or something like that, which kind of allows me to make money in the background.
Before we wrap up, I have quick fire questions. So there's no and ahhing or pausing. I'm going to ask you 5 questions and kind of give me a quick answer. What immediately comes to your head? So are you ready for this?
I'm an Umra and Ara, so yeah, I'll do my best.
So, favorite job that you've done ever?
Oh God, no, that's definitely an and R situation.
Top three.
Oh, I don't know. Next question.
Dream person to style?
Rihanna.
Why Rihanna? I know why, but please tell us why. Why?
I think she would be I think she would be really fun to work with. Like, I can imagine being in that environment and working with her. It would be like a really nice vibe. It would be, I could just imagine that the vibe would be nice. And she's always kind of like been super duper creative, and I feel like she also, from the different kind of styles that she's had, I feel like she's very, she kind of knows which direction she's going in, but I also feel like she's very, she likes the input of her team.
Experimental. She's got that vibe to her where she's like willing to push the boundaries, especially when it comes to hair. Biggest hair myth?
Oh, that having a relaxer when you was a child has messed up your hair in adulthood.
Please, Jane, I want to believe that because I want to understand my length. That's how I justify my current length, is like that relaxer from when I was younger. So, okay, cool. Thanks for confirming that that's not true.
Having a relaxer as a child can, let's not say as a child, children shouldn't have relaxers anyway, but there's people who have relaxed their hair or bleached their hair or done something to their hair, and they believe that that's the reason why their hair in its kind of more natural state isn't growing. But unless you've had some type of burn or something that's affected the actual scalp, or that's made you kind of lose hair, it won't actually change the integrity of any hair that grows out new. Because once your hair grows out of relaxer, it grows out in its natural state. So a relaxer from years ago won't have made a difference to the way your hair is now. It's other factors. But there's so many other factors, because some people really look after their hair, but there's like dietary factors, there's environmental factors, there's stress factors, and we've all been going through some stress over the last couple of years. They're in a bad situation with their hair, or they're not happy with their hair because they've the stress, and even just current stresses kind of have affected.
But it's not the relaxer from when you were 14 years old, people.
I would say probably like, oh, when I was young, my hair was down my back, and now it won't grow past my shoulders. But it's like when you're like a smaller human being, the hair's gonna reach when you're a larger human being, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Is that the biggest myth to debunk?
I mean, I didn't know that, and I've been blaming my relaxer from when I was 14 and my mum. So, you've cleared that up for my family at least.
But I ended up getting into. I'm not always very interactive on social media, but there was a post on a blog with this Caucasian lady who had got braids, and then she showed all of the hair that came out in her brush, and then all of the comments were like, "Oh, this is why certain types of hair shouldn't have certain styles," and da da da. And I basically had to let them know, it's like with one hair type to another. Like, if someone's hair is super duper tight, then yes, it can cause alopecia, but it's not something that's relative to your ethnicity or the type of hair you have. What the use of certain styles in terms of a cultural perspective is a different conversation, but science doesn't come into that at the end of the day. Like, all types of hair can handle braids, essentially.
What song are you listening to right now on repeat?
Oh, what's that song? I've been drinking more alcohol on.
Did you check for me?
Yeah, that one.
I know which song you're talking about.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to make a playlist of everyone who comes on the show, and so I'll make sure that song.
Did you look for me?
Did you look for me, or did you search for me?
Check on me. Did you look for me?
Did you check on me?
Yeah.
And then the last question, what are you grateful for today?
For this video interview. Today I'm grateful for, it's not, the weather's getting a bit milder here, so it was nice I don't know, I feel like it's a little less cold outside. You could start wearing your pom-pom shorts soon, and it's getting a bit milder. I'm just generally, I've just generally just been feeling grateful for, just like having somewhere to live, being able to work, just stuff like that, really. Just being in a good mental place, and being able to, I guess talk to and help other people who maybe aren't in such a great place. Like there's certain, friends of mine who are kind of, they've gone through relationship stuff or family stuff. So I'm grateful that I'm able to, I guess, be in a sound enough place that I'm able to, help them in some type of way, which I know sounds really like corny and pretentious, but I know that's one.
It's important. And
yeah.
I asked the question because I think that we should all remind ourselves that there is something to be grateful for. Thank you for coming on and joining me today. Where can people find you? If they're on Instagram, where are you? TikTok, where are you? What's your handle? Where can they follow you?
So for now, I only have Instagram, and it is James Catalano Hair. So it's all one word, no punctuation or anything like that. So yeah. I want to big up the person who did these artworks in the background. And it is, I should have had this up from before. Where's she? Okay, cool. So I got these prints from a place called Peckham Palms, which is like a kind of it's like a mini kind of center, and it's kind of like you get nails done. They've got like a hair salon. There's a barbers. There's all kind of different places, and the woman who runs that place is amazing. And yeah, so really just check out Peckham Palms. But I got these prints from there. They do like little markets and stuff like that to support Black-owned businesses. And the lady or the person, should I say, who did these prints is it's Biba Nabi on Etsy. So BIBANABI on Etsy. Or if you don't remember that, you can just search black hair art on Etsy. And these are some really cool prints. It's basically just a hairstyle. There's no face or anything like that. I think they're really cool. And I want to get a couple more.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I noticed them in the background. And for anyone listening and not watching the video of the video interview, it's, as James said, it's the hairstyles, but without the person's face. So it just puts the hair front and center, and they look beautiful in the background. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow us to find out when the next episode is out. And if you really, really enjoyed this conversation, maybe send a link to a friend. And if you really, really, really enjoyed this conversation, head to coilscashculture.com to sign up to our mailing list today. Stay well, keep smiling.